But most of what the Buddha taught is not really capable of our verification with our limited understanding. Some of it is, much of it is not.
And I think the point yesterday that was being stressed was that often we think we know much more than we do. And there has to be the understanding that really is this understanding of seeing now, because we think we've heard it many times. We think it's clear that they're seeing now, but is it really the understanding of Dhamma, or are we just saying, yes, of course, there's seeing now. So the more understanding, the more ignorance is revealed. So if it seems there's not much ignorance and it's all quite clear, then it shows that there's not much understanding.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And that's why Achan says, often we are just thinking, only thinking about the truth. But that's not the point. It's more than that. Even intellectual understanding is not just thinking about the truth, but considering. And she emphasizes considering now.
It has to come back to now, yes. And Sita, do you have any topic you would like to bring up today?
From the discussion yesterday, there was about this kanda. There was also one, I think, in my mind, this Sankara kanda is also, and that is Sanya kanda. And Sanya kanda is remembering and marking. It's also, I was considering and was not so very sure about this.
So now there is sanya arising at each moment with each citta, marking, remembering at every moment. And every sanya that arises is sanya kanda. It's the reality of sanya which arises and falls away.
Okay. Okay. And sanya is cetasika as well, yeah?
Yes, it's a cetasika that arises with every citta in life. And because of sanya, there is remembering what is the pleasant feeling, the unpleasant feeling, and there's the thinking, the dwelling about pleasant and unpleasant experiences. So sanya is very important in life. Without sanya, there would be no thinking now about the people here and about the details of the Dhamma, about what is like, what we dislike. So,
and it is also a kanda, no?
It's a kanda, yes, because of the importance of sanya. Vedana is a kanda because of the strong attachment to pleasant feeling and the aversion to unpleasant feeling. And it's sanya that remembers and marks those different feelings and different rupas, which are rupa kanda.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And another one,
you know, it is kanda because it arises and falls away. That is the meaning of kanda. That is very important. It is only a very short moment, because we may think that sanya is already staying for a while, but it doesn't. Only a very short moment.
Okay. And another one I was not so sure is about this vitako and vicharo. These are the thoughts that coming and going. Vitako and vicharo.
Yeah, it's translated as thinking. The function cetasikas, which every citta, but it is not just thinking in conventional sense, but touch the object, the citta, so that citta can experience that object. They are helpers of citta.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, just to further elaborate on what Nina has just said, those two names you mentioned are names of mental factors that accompany most cittas. They are not thoughts. Thoughts are the object of the citta that thinks. Thoughts are conscious.
Okay.
But it's confusing, I agree, because these mental factors have the name of thinking and
Yeah.
whatever else the other one is. So, but just keep in mind that thoughts are the concepts that are the object of thinking, the citta that thinks, and it's citta that thinks, not the cetasika that thinks.
Okay, thank you, Nathan.
Sarah, I've got a question. May I ask?
Just to pause a moment, Ajahn just arriving. Just a second.
Okay.
Just pause a moment.
Is my teacher,
Mhm.
Sarah.
We started the discussion, and
About
this is
that.
Tam Tan who's just about to ask a question. Go ahead, Tam.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Ajahn.
Hi, Jan, Sarah, and John, and everyone there. I've got a question to ask regarding about a few weeks ago when Ajahn said to Nina something like, you don't have to do anything because everything is there. So when she said everything is there, I don't understand very well. She mean like Dhamma is there, or she means something else. Can you please explain that? Thank you.
What is there now? It's not already. You didn't have to do anything.
You mean reality?
Anything now. We don't have to call or to say a reality. But is there anything appearing now?
Yes.
Already? Did you do anything or made it up? Nothing at all. Is there? Is that
Oh,
right?
so that's what you mean by
Right.
Right. Thanks.
Like seeing now, seeing has already arisen by conditions and fallen away by conditions. No I to do anything. You couldn't stop it. You couldn't make it last because no you to control anything. So it's just Dhamma arising by conditions. It's already there and then gone.
Thank you. That's clarified me for me now, because I've been thinking about when she said everything is there, then I'm thinking, oh, then how can I understand about the sunyata or something? Because nothing is there. And then she said everything is there.
For an instant and then gone, sunyata. So seeing when it arises, it's there for an instant and then it's gone, never to arise again. Sunyata, gone completely, nothing left. So it's there just for a moment.
So we can say nothing is there. Instead of everything is there.
Nothing is left when the seeing is gone. Nothing left of the seeing, but there is another reality that is there. Hearing or thinking, another reality. So each one is there for an instant and then gone, nothing left of it, never to arise again.
Thank you.
It's a good point brought up.
Yeah, and there was a question yesterday. Anatta, non-self, is stressed so much. And the person said, but what about anicca or impermanence and dukkha? Well, it is the same, because what is dukkha? Dukkha is the arising just for a moment and then gone. That is one aspect of dukkha. And anicca also, anicca is not just a theory, a theoretical matter of that things are just falling away in conventional sense, but it means a very momentary reality that is so extremely short and then gone. And that is anicca, not just a theory of just impermanence. We can repeat it and no understanding, but as is stressed, it should be realized and considered, the meaning, and then it's clearer that anicca is also momentary.
I think many people who think that they understand impermanence because everyone knows nothing lasts, this pen will stop working and seeing falls away, but it's not actually the understanding of impermanence, because if there's not the understanding of the reality itself, seeing now directly, there cannot be the direct understanding of the arising and falling away of the reality, sunyata, as Tam said, gone forever. So that's why I mentioned at the beginning, it's easy to think that more is understood than it is, and not to appreciate how much ignorance there is, or the asavas that we often talk about, the subtle attachment right now, the wrong understanding even now, the ignorance now, the subtlety of dharmas.
And just going back to Tam Tun's question about nothing there versus things there. There is a sutta which says that conditioned dhammas are void, hollow, and insubstantial. And some people read this as meaning nothing. But it has to be understood in the context that conditioned dhammas are things that are real, even if only for a moment, and they have a characteristic which can be known. So they are void and hollow and insubstantial in the sense that they are nothing more than a fleeting moment arising by conditions and falling away immediately. But there is something there for that moment.
Thank you.
I know both Tin and Dream have questions here. So Tin, would you like to start with you?
Hello. I have a question about mana cetasika. My question is what is its function?
In brief, when mana arises, it has to arise with attachment, with clinging, and it is when there is a sense of one's own importance. Like in the text they mentioned, flying the banner, it's me. Something is important about me. So my arm is special or a little different to someone else's. So it's all about one's own importance. And as we discussed yesterday, quite different from wrong view. When the mana arises, no wrong view, there's no wrong idea of self, but there is the clinging to the idea of one's own importance, either by comparison or just thinking about oneself. Like last time we were here, Ajahn gave the example, are you Dream? So as soon as they're thinking about, oh yes, I'm Dream, mana, one's important self, different from another. So it can be so subtle, as we know, it's only eradicated by the Arahat, can be very, very slight idea of importance, like when speaking or any time when one's eating lunch, just a little sense of how one's importance there. But Ajahn or Jonathan?
I was going to say, tell us what you know about mana and why you're interested in hearing more about it.
I know a part of it, that like the discussion yesterday, your friend said that in Pali it means measuring. So I'm interested, like, what does it measure? Like, does it always have to be self? Does it always have to be concept, or can it be Intl.Dhamma to as a concept, like sounds or visible object? Can it measure that as well? Or that's my question.
Is there you?
Right. Yes.
Who are you? Who are you?
Concept.
No, you, or who am I? Who are you? No answer.
I am Tin.
Is that manner
Absolutely, yes.
lower, higher, or equal?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the answer.
Gave the example one day when you said, oh, concerned about what others think of oneself, or feeling a bit inadequate, or aren't these examples of mana, feeling not as good as the others, or what will they think about me? And so many moments of mana, all about my importance, not being good enough, not adequate like the others, or more adequate, more capable.
Relates to oneself and others. So measuring to others and saying that person is more intelligent than that person, that's not necessarily, it could also be mana, I suppose, but that's not what the measuring refers to. It's really one's own value relevant or in comparison to another.
So it's always related to oneself, the importance of oneself.
That's correct. But we say oneself there, it doesn't mean there has to be an idea of a lasting self. It just means this this person, however we think of that person. So even the Sotapanna who has no wrong view about self, has eradicated all that, can still has mana, and can still compare this Citta, Jetashika and Rupa compared to another. We can use the word oneself or me or I or you in different ways, with or without wrong view or attachment or conceit.
About when one looks at the decoration in the room and thinks, maybe I'd have painted a different color, which might have made it more interesting, or perhaps they should have put a flower arrangement here. The idea that I can do better or I think better. So it can come in any time. Or this shirt is not the most suitable color, something like that. But the idea behind it is that I have better taste. So many ideas, just it's all still one's own importance.
So it arises like really, really often, right?
Common, yes, yes. anytime, like now in the discussion.
Mm.
Or even like the hair today is better than yesterday. Even like that.
Does it have to?
They haven't combed their hair properly, or maybe they could have, put a bit of makeup on, or any little thing. Yes. Any kind of, there's a little bit of judgment there. That's the measuring, but it comes back to one's own importance.
And also it can be just, as Tambak has just said, about oneself. It doesn't have to be relevant to another person. So doesn't my hair look good today, sort of thing, or yeah, just had a haircut, looking really sharp.
Does it? Can it arise without like even the thought of I this, I that? But like, is that possible? Like it's that subtle?
Have to relate to oneself in some way or another. But if you looking in your wardrobe at your array of shirts, for example, mana there.
So conceit does not arise at the same time as wrong view. Different, because it's different. We can use the words I and him and myself, but only to denote different individuals while comparing.
And why do we talk about it?
To understand it
When?
now.
Now, or when it's there?
When it's there.
Otherwise, it cannot be known. But we don't have to name it. Just reality.
And if there's understanding, doesn't have to be names, and it just understand that reality.
Its characteristics appear, but it's not known as it is, as not anyone at all.
See someone, for example, driving badly on the road, and it's a condition for dosa, then I think it's conceit that conditions that dosa. It can't arise together with dosa because it's rooted in loba, but it can condition dosa.
And is it known right then as not I?
No.
And Acha says you don't have to name it to remind us, because so often we are just thinking about realities, but it has to be attending to the present moment when it appears, and that we forget. So it's very good to be reminded of that.
Whenever there is judging of other people or their behavior or their choice of, or their taste in this and that, then there's bound to be conceit involved in it.
And the point of difference that came up yesterday in discussion is it's quite common, the idea that even when there's no wrong view, for example, the Sotapanna has no more wrong view, but still there's conceit, and people have the idea that there's still some lurking idea of self. But when conceit arises, there's no wrong view at all at those moments. And when wrong view has been eradicated, there's still the clinging to one's importance, the clinging to reputation, the comparing, but no wrong understanding. No misunderstanding that these are anything other than just dharmas.
I think this misunderstanding arises because people don't appreciate the significance of the use of self in different contexts. So wrong view of self is one instance of self, and the importance of oneself is another use of self. And the use of self in the latter case doesn't indicate the belief in something permanent existing. It's a different context. And so we appreciate that each Dhamma is to be known by its particular characteristic, not by the label or not by the terms in which we're thinking about the situation.
Is it because the moment that we think of terms and words, it's already concept about the truth? Even if it's right, it's already gone. It's something else now.
There's always thinking, apart from the moments of actual seeing and hearing and so forth, apart from the actual moments of sensed or experience, there's thinking all the time and giving labels to things. And it's part of the way the mind is. So even the enlightened being thinks continuously and gives labels to things.
Point is that, as Ajahn said, does it appear now? Because if it doesn't appear now, there can be just thinking about the terms and labels and ideas, but there cannot actually be the understanding of the characteristic. So it has to be known when it appears. The same with wrong view or dosa or any other reality. So is it now? If it's not now, then we're just thinking about examples of mana. But when it appears, like the example you gave the other day, the concern about what people think about me at that moment, it's real and there can be understanding of it. But now there isn't that mana, so it can't be known. So it's always back to what appears now. Otherwise, it is just thinking about the words. So is there concern about what people think now?
Yes.
So,
Yes, absolutely.
So mana now,
Yep.
many moments of mana. So
Yeah.
it can be understood. Is it your mana?
No, it's not
It's-
mine. It's just,
It's
a
just a
rise.
Dhamma,
Yeah.
which has that characteristic, whatever words we use, and then it's gone. Yeah. So this is a way to begin to understand it.
And just the Dharma means it is conditioned already, and we don't try to change it or think I should not have akusala. But it is good to know it's akusala, but we should not mind. So often we mind having clinging, but it is conditioned, and we should not mind about all the akusala that arises. Just understand a little better as conditioned and not self.
Just hopping between the screen and the room. Maeve, you've been live for several days. I wonder if you have anything you would like to bring up or ask Ajahn.
Hello, Sarah. Yes, I've just had some connection issues working around power blackouts and what have you. Yes, there's been something that I guess I'd like Ajahn, if you would please to comment on, and that is the relationship between calm and equanimity. I think I'm not that clear about what the concept of calmness means. It's much clearer what equanimity means, but because we talk about calm in relation to kusala, I think I'd just like you to talk about that a little bit, and then maybe I can ask you some more questions, please.
I think that we have to understand the precise meaning of each one. For example, what is equanimity or what is calm? Is it the same or looks like the same, or it's a little slight different? So calm is a cetasika. We use the term, the mental factor. What cetasika is it? Patsati, Kaya Patsati, and Chitta Patsati, or what? Or we don't have to use any word, but it's a reality by then, which is not akusala. It has to be kusala, away from lobha, dosa, and moha, and other akusala factors. So learn to understand the moment of calm, at moment of hearing, considering, understanding the truth of what is there now. Is it calm? Not aware with lobha or moha as usual, thinking about the other things, but now this moment, at moment of considering wisely of that which is heard about the truth of this moment, beginning to understand, is calm or pasati, kaya pasati for cetasika and chitta pasati for chitta, two different cetasikas. And I think that we use the word equanimity in different sense too, generally in daily life. What do you think about that? What does it mean?
Well, I understand equanimity to, I mean, it seems as if it must have a calm aspect to it, but it's like a neutrality where there is not lopa or dosa. It's like a very even-mindedness, that it sees things impartially.
Can it be tatra macchatata cetasika? Tatra maccata cetasika arising with each wholesome citta. That's why in a moment of wholesome reality, there are many different mental factors too, arising together to be kusala.
And does calmness always have to be present if there is kusala?
Does it appear even it's there? See, only one really can appear at a time. So it depends what is there to be known, but not in word. It's characteristic which is there to be known. So now this moment of kusala, there must be equanimity, tatra maccata cetasika, and kaya pasati, chitta pasati, and other mental factors too. But what appears, when they do not appear, it cannot be known, as it is different from the others, like calm and piti.
It would seem that that the absence of restlessness, of mental restlessness, seems to be part of what you've just described in terms of a degree of concentration, that there is that, so when sati arises, it is not distracted from its function. It is not
But
rest. There is
the-
not restlessness.
Yeah, we don't know what Cetasika is there, how many of them, but when it's there, it can be known. For example, is this moment restless?
Not particularly.
When Chitta is Akusala, Utthaja is there, Acetasika. That's why if it does not appear as attachment, lopa or dosa, can it be known, that restlessness? But when it's so many moments, so long, it can be known, I'm so restless, right? Keep thinking about this and that all the time. So many moments. That's why I just learn to understand each different mental factors.
So
And in terms of something that sort of seems to be in a similar territory, and that's in indifference. I know that indifference can arise with either kusala or akusala. I wonder, well, I would ask maybe for an example of indifference arising with kusala.
I think this is why it's quite helpful to understand what the different Cetasikas arise with. So first of all, going back to the calm, Passaddhi Cetasika, it arises with any kind of kusala, but never with akusala. So when one has a pleasant walk in the forest or along the beach and feels so calm, actually it's lobha there. It's not this pleasant feeling and it feels tranquil, but it's not calm because it's not kusala citta at that moment. And the equanimity, as Ajahn mentioned, tatrama jatata cetasika, arises with all kusala cittas, the equanimity or accepting the forbearance with whatever is conditioned. But there's another word, upekkha, which has different meanings. For example, there's neutral feeling, which is upekkha vedana. So now when there's just a little liking, but not much, the feeling is neutral. So it's a kind of upekkha neutrality. There's a kind of there's a feeling which is neutral feeling, but it's a kusala at that moment. But there can be neutral feeling with kusala as well. And we read about upekkha, the Brahma Vihara, when there is equanimity towards other beings, whatever happens. We hear about someone's misfortune and there is equanimity because of understanding of karma and other conditions. But this is different from indifference, which may be a kind of aversion. So each one has
Sorry, Sarah.
characteristics.
Sarah, would you say that again? There's a little bit of a time lapse going on. Could you just repeat that last part, please?
So
what you
one of the Brahma Viharas is equanimity, metta, karuna, mudita, and equanimity. When there's equanimity, it is the acceptance of whatever is conditioned. When we hear about someone's misfortune, for example, we hear someone is sick in hospital, and instead of having dosa as usual, there is equanimity, acceptance, because it's by conditions, the result of karma, other conditions. So this is kusala, upekkha, kusala, equanimity. the opposite of its near enemy, which is indifference, which is not caring, which is often just a kind of dosa, or just no interest, no concern for the welfare of the other. So quite different. And the restlessness, the udacha, as Ajahn mentioned, arises with every moment of akusala. So when there is not caring or indifference to the plight of others, actually at that moment, or any akusala moment, there is restlessness, disturbance. Like now, at a moment of attachment or a moment of boredom, there is udacha, there is restlessness. And on the concentration, there's concentration at every moment in life, ekagata, cetasika. So there is one-pointedness with every akusala citta, like even when there is restlessness, or even when there is indifference, there's still one-pointedness. There's still the object that is experienced. So we tend to think of it as something wholesome, concentration, but usually it's akusala, like when concentrating on making the lunch or on getting the right money out on the bus, and there's concentration at those moments, but it's just concentration with lobha, concentration with moha most of the time. Even when there is anger, there's concentration at those moments too. So there's always one point.
So what is the difference between those moments and a moment of sati? What is the difference in terms of the concentration that arises?
So at the moment of sati, there is the guarding from akusala. So no attachment, no ignorance. It guards at that moment. It's mindful of being kusala, and the one-pointedness experiences the same object as the citta and the sati at that moment. So, for example, at a moment of metta, kindness, the object is well-being of the other. So the one-pointedness experiences that same object. So it's at every moment, but usually the concentration we're aware of, or that appears in daily life, like when there's strong concentration when driving or cooking or performing a difficult task, mostly it's akusala concentration that appears.
I was thinking of it more in relation to the examples that you've given of it arising with the Brahma Viharas, that it is of a different nature. Yes, I think that helps to see the different functions of these mental factors.
And Maeve, could I just add a brief comment that all these terms we're discussing can be used in different contexts. And the three in particular we've mentioned are calm, equanimity, and concentration. So they can all refer to a specific mental factor. In the case of calm, it only arises, that as a mental factor only arises with kusala citta. And likewise, equanimity as a mental factor. Whereas concentration as a mental factor arises with every citta. So it takes the quality, the ethical quality of the citta with which it arises. And then each of these terms can be used in another context also. For example, calm can refer to the development of samatha. And there it refers to the fact that at advanced levels of samatha, it refers to the fact that at every moment of kusala, as we've said, there is calm, and also that this quality increases as samatha is developed to higher levels. And it can also refer to the state of an equanimity, as Sarah has said, refers to one of the 4 so-called Brahma Viharas: metta, karuna, mudita, equanimity, where it refers to the citta, which is not disturbed by the plight of another being in a wholesome way, different from being indifferent.
Jonathan, oh, sorry. May I just go back? I'm not sure how, if there's a lapse in my in you hearing me, but it's just a little bit hard to pick up the sound. But what you just mentioned about the calmness in relation to samatha, and there was something that Ajahn said, it was probably a little while ago, and it was about how before the Buddha's time, that people who practiced, I don't know how we would describe the practice. I'm really carefully avoiding the term meditation, but it was a practice that was about developing samatha, and that they had come to understand the connection between the calmness that arose and kusala. And I suppose what occurred to me was that in thinking about that, it would be easy to be drawn into an understanding that was a desirable practice. So can you just comment on that? I mean, where did that connection lead to? That, you know, if there was the realization that by developing samatha, there was more calm and a corresponding kusala, where was that actually going? Can we make any supposition about that?
Perhaps I'll let Ajahn answer, but before doing so, I'll just mention that the calm that arises with kusala does not normally appear. The person who is developing samatha, however, will, of course, because the understanding of a certain level is also being developed, the calm becomes more apparent. And so it's directly known by the individual that kusala leads to or brings with it this calm. Now, it's not difficult to imagine that it's easy to become attached to that state of calm.
Yes.
And people do. And that is a danger in developing samatha, which the Buddha had to point out to others. So that's what I see as the connection. So the fact that kusala means calm comes with the understanding, which understands the kusala citta as it arises. But there is the danger of attachment at the same time.
Yes, so that it then becomes the development of an imperfection as opposed to a perfection, I guess.
I think the Buddha had to be at pains to explain to people who were developing samatha to the high degrees, including jhana, that it was still possible to develop insight based on the jhana citta and otherwise, that the two developments are not mutually exclusive. That's why we have the teaching such as found at the beginning of the Satipatthana Sutta about the monk gone to the forest, sits down cross-legged, breathes in mindfully, and so forth.
Thank you, that's helpful.
When you mentioned practice and meditation, you got Ajahn's attention then.
Well, I was trying to be careful not to, but it actually made it a little clearer why meditation, or what is referred to as meditation, can be quite, I hesitate to say dangerous, but it can go in a direction which is not understood or foreseen.
If there is no hearing the words of the Buddha at all, can there be the understanding of the absolute truth of what is there now? We can say many words like practicing or meditation and calmness and so on, but what are they? See, we think about it, just thinking about it, but is it true? Each word of truth, like calmness, is there any calmness without saying anything about it? No idea at all. That's why we begin to listen to the words of the Buddha. What did he say about each reality and each word? For example, if we'd like to understand what is meditation or practice, it has to be considered one word at a time. So now, which one?
Maybe we can pause and come back to the topic when Maeve returns, do you think? Would you like to pause or continue, Ajahn? Maybe pause to see if she comes back, and then we come back to meditation. Dream, would you like to bring up your topic in the meantime?
So I have a quick question about dosa. It has been arising within me in the past week.
Not now.
Well, yeah, like in the room sometimes, you know, the slight dosa and such, and listening to yesterday discussion too, slight dosa, but mostly from work, and it just happened before I came here too, and it's still I that caught it, but I would like to know. Yes, exactly. I would like to kind of understand more, because even when I can feel it coming and try to pull, you know, thinking about the discussion, reminding myself about all the Dhamma, but nothing can stop the dosa from happening.
Because those moments are I not understanding. That's why there has to be the understanding of the truth on and on and on until it can be that very moment understanding dosa. Otherwise, it's one's wish not to have it and try so much not to have it, but no one at all. They arise by conditions. So learn just to understand a little more of one reality. For example, dosa. What is it in a day? Does it appear in a day? Appear as what? Attitude or feeling or situation or what? What do you take for dosa?
Unpleasant feeling is not getting as one wants.
No, see, feeling is not dosa. Otherwise, we cannot have anything to be understood at will by oneself, but understand each word of the truth. Buddha enlightened realities. So he taught about each reality, each one. For example, feeling is not dosa. But when they are together, ignorance is there, no understanding of the difference. So it's I feel or I have dosa. Everything becomes I or mine, but in truth, it's not there anymore. That's why learning to understand the truth of whatever is there, not only dosa. Otherwise, what about lopa? You don't mind, you don't care. You like it to be again and again, more and more. See, that's why we have to understand the absolute truth, to understand that whether it should be object of clinging or not, because actually what is there now is gone forever, never to arise again, even dosa. So dosa is not feeling. The cetasika which arises and fails can be moment of pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, indifferent feeling, bodily and mentally, that's all. But dosa is the moment that is disturbed. It's not pleasant moment. It's not happy at all. In what way it appears in a day? Can you know? Some, you know, not all aspects. At the moment when you get angry very strongly, you know that that is dosa. But even just, this is not good, this is dosa. See, that's why I learn to understand different degrees of reality, to understand the truth of actually no one there. This is the point of why we learn about many or everything more and more, to understand the truth that whatever is there, gone, no one there and nothing there at all, not just dosa. Learn to understand the truth, and the understanding works its way at any moment of its own degree. How much understanding is there? So dosa is there, no idea about it, but I have or I am angry at that very moment. And now, where's that anger?
All gone.
But you think about it, see, that's why whatever is experienced, the mind or process remembers and condition moment of thinking about it, short or long, depending on conditions. That's all in a day. So it's not just understanding dosa, but understanding whatever is there, which is not known yet, to understand the truth of each reality, which is conditioned to arise and pass away. And the understanding can gradually let go dosa, not at will, but having more understanding, less akusala.
Can I say that, like, due to one's accumulation, one's would lean towards more, like for me, I have a lot of dosa,
Yeah.
and Tin maybe have mana per se.
No one.
But yes,
Different
would,
moments.
would it be good to, like, this is very worldly of me to say, but like, I know I have dosa, so like I try, there's a lot of I, of course, I catch myself.
But
It's
when
like,
there is the understanding of dosa, no one tries because it's there by conditions.
Or the more trying there is not to have it, the more dosa there will be, because the more frustration, the more clinging to it being what one doesn't want, the more dosa, the more disturbance there is. Keep thinking about it and trying to stop it and making resolutions. So more and more dosa because of that trying or regret or being disturbed again and again by the thoughts about it. But actually it's gone. It's by conditions, it's gone. And it's not your dosa. And only an anagami has no more dosa. So it's common, not just you that has lots of dosa, very common. And usually everyone asks about and would like to find out about the dosa, because everyone would like to get rid of dosa because of the unpleasant feeling. No one says, I've got a problem. I have such a strong accumulation of lobha, too much pleasant feeling, help me. It's always the dosa. So it shows the strong clinging to self being a certain way.
So Sarah, can I join in with this question? So when you said dosa is there, that means and then because of your habitual thinking and attachment, so we will, and ignorance, we say this is my dosa. Is that right? So you take it as this is my dosa because of the habitual thinking and ignorance and attachment all come together.
And the wrong view. So whatever arises is taken for mine. The seeing is taken for my seeing. What the hearing is taken for my hearing. The thinking, the calm, the kindness, the generosity, the dosa. It's all taken for mine because of wrong understanding that has been accumulated.
But isn't that come under ignorance? Because
ignorance is there, but at those moments when it's my dosa, my good deed, there is wrong view as well.
Yes, and because of our habitual thinking as well. Yes, that condition.
The habitual tendency of ignorance, the habitual tendency of attachment, the habitual tendency of wrong view.
Thank you. Yes, very good. Yeah, thank you.
And Sarah, Sakadagami, he still has dosa, but he doesn't have the kind of gross dosa, right? And that means that he can have dosa, but it's not expressed in deeds and speech. Is that right?
There can be some akusala speech with dosa, but there isn't the dosa that is of a degree to kill or harm the other, but there can still be dosa conditioning, frivolous talk, for example.
Yes, the frivolous talk, but like his dosa is less than the sotapanna, for example. So
gradually reduce because gradually less clinging, but still plenty of dosa, all by conditions and accumulations. Only the anagami has no more dosa at all because no more clinging to sense objects. While there is clinging to what is seen, heard, smelt, tasted, and touched, there will be dosa for sure. What we like, what we wish is gone or doesn't appear.
Does Sakadagami cry?
that's the question actually, because he's supposed
What degree of dosa?
that's
Condition the moment
supposed
of crying.
that's supposed to be the more gross dosa, right?
Strong enough to condition moment of crying.
Yes. And
Because it's not just a moment of having just anger, other aspect too of dosa.
yes. sadness, yes.
Fear, yes.
And I think in the commentary, there's a story of someone who cries, and actually she is a Sakadagami, right?
Back to Dream's question for a minute, and Ajahn mentioned the value of having awareness of dosa and all realities, understanding things as they are, because that is the best medicine or remedy in the long run for all the problems of life. But of course, we also need to keep in mind that it's not a matter of, okay, I've got dosa, I need to focus on having understanding of dosa. That understanding and awareness, of course, can only arise when dosa is present, but it doesn't mean that we are being told to especially focus on trying to be aware of the dosa that arises. There is a generally held view among other people who study the teachings that awareness or mindfulness is a strategy for getting rid of akusala mental states when they arise, and that's a trap to be avoided.
I don't know how it'll go, but do you want to bring up your question that you said your group was discussing?
You mean the one I wrote to you? Yes, but I think I need to have the text in front of me to mention it. I think it's about a passage in one sutta, and because the meaning is unclear, so we would like to have some elucidation of the meaning. I think it talks about the Dhamma that is in the gift, the moderation in a Dhamma that is poorly explained, then the moderation should be by the giver, not by the receiver. And in a Dhamma that is well explained, the moderation should be by the receiver, not by the giver. And how should we understand that passage?
I just looked at the commentary note. Well, of course, if everything is wrong and poorly given, well, we don't need to discuss that. But it talked about when it is rightly given, and for the receiver, I think the point is there should be consideration. If the giver only wants to give a little, the receiver should gladly accept a little. Or if the giver wants to give a lot, but they don't have the means to give a lot, like if they want to give a big meal, but they can only afford a small meal, or they want to share a lot of Dhamma, but they only have the knowledge to share little, then one should just accept a little out of consideration to what is possible. And if they want to give a lot and have the means to give a lot, then still there should be consideration not to be greedy, not to ask or take too much out of consideration. One should consider what is meant by fewness of wishes and accepting whatever little is offered instead of being greedy to accept too much. I think that was the point about the onus being on the receiver, because if we're the receiver, then what about the consideration for the circumstances?
And the connection with the Dhamma well explained in that context, because the moderation should be by the receiver explain in the way you explain, I think I got it, but I'm not sure about the connection between Intl.Dhamma that is well explained.
I think that even when it's a Dhamma well explained or a good offering, like for example, Ajahn may explain well and may offer to share the Dhamma all day, all night, but as the recipient, one should be considerate what is beneficial to the giver and be content with a little, not greedy to keep listening, or even if more and more is offered. So I think it was just the stressing the importance of the recipient, even when it's the good gift of appreciating what is within the limits of the giver, what is beneficial for the giver, instead of just thinking of oneself and what one would like to receive. That was just the message I got from it. But I don't know if you have any more to say.
What's the point of discussion?
Is to understand what is now.
It doesn't matter the giver or the receiver, right? The truth can we talk about it, to be considered. That's all.
Yes.
Now there may be greed to hear, or conceit, thinking of oneself, or dosa when it's unpleasant. So it comes back to the understanding at any time, even now.
And if someone tells you about how to have less anger and not about the truth of it, and someone who just tells you about the truth of anger, what would you like to get? See, not just the way to have less, it is attachment too, at that very moment, lurking all the time. That's why understanding the truth only can lead to better behavior, better situation, because of understanding only. Without understanding, people might seem to be very nice, but what about no understanding at all? I am, see, all the time, nice, so on. But anger has many different aspects too, like we just talk about crying, not with anger, but losing something, the dear one, or think about the unpleasant situation can condition such feelings, so to condition crying, it is dosa at that moment too, with unpleasant feeling.
Depression is another instance of dosa, but not what associated with anger.
But when you think it's more important to understand, when dosa is there, do you mind? Or understand the truth? It's there by condition, not forever.
Perhaps sometimes you may, like on your camping holiday, maybe not much dosa for the week, enjoying yourself, having fun. So there may be a week of having fun, not much apparent dosa, but lots of ignorance, lots of attachment. Another time, there may be lots of dosa rising, but there may be understanding. So which is better? Understanding, no matter what the circumstances or whatever the reality is appearing. So this is the courage to understand whatever appears, because it's just Dhamma, instead of trying to push it away or trying to keep moving the deck chairs until there's no dosa. That's all I trying to control.
Maybe you came here just to find out to have less dosa. But in fact, it's impossible because it arises again and again as long as there are conditions for its arising. But understanding will let go gradually, little by little.
Thai, come and tell your discussion with Vincent. Come and give us a summary. We'd all like to hear about it before you fall asleep again.
It's forgotten. Sorry, I not remember yet.
You would like to discuss, or any other topic you've been reflecting on?
Not yet, sorry.
Now, when it's forgotten, any embarrassment, any feeling of embarrassment?
No.
No. How about Tin, when if you're asked a question and there's forgetting what one is meant to say, any embarrassment? Okay, that's mana, when there's that kind of embarrassment. But
I want to come back to the questions about mana. Somehow I understand mana is different from ditthi, but how comes there's not mana when there's no ditthi? Because without ditthi, there's not the idea about the importance of self. For example, at the who is not for higher level than a Sotapanna, you say still mana but no ditthi.
even now, when there's no wrong idea of I, is there still clinging to one's name or reputation, or clinging to the way one's hair looks or what others may think?
But it all comes from the idea of self. But it all comes from the idea about self, because without self, no thinking about my hair or my clothes.
I think it comes from the idea of this being versus that being. But that doesn't mean that having the idea of this being means there's a self involved or that being. So that the Sotapanna doesn't have the wrong view, but the Sotapanna still recognizes that this individual and that individual are different.
But even when this idea of different individuals, then still about something and someone.
Not necessarily. Just like when there's an idea of that's my cup and this is my cup. It doesn't mean there's giving any existence to the cup as just recognizing it as this and that, rather than attributing self to it, attributing anything lasting to it.
Now, if there is comparing the different hairstyles, does there have to be the idea of someone there?
Maybe not someone, but something.
Something there. So that's why it's quite subtle. And that's why, as Ajahn said, only when the mana is now can it be known? Like at the moment of embarrassment, at that moment it can be known, different from when it is taking for something there, taking it for me.
For example, so when you ask him about mana, and I just think, oh, his English is good. So, I guess there should be mana there. Somehow it's
Because behind
I
the
think-
thought, there might be the idea that his English is better than mine. So one thinking, oh, his English is good. But what is behind the thinking? Maybe some hidden comparison, even though it's not in words.
And the Sotapanna, who has eradicated all wrong view of self, still identifies different people and things.
Yes,
Has to.
right.
So we cannot say that because there's an idea of different individuals, it must be with wrong view, even though for us it may be. But obviously it's not necessary that there be wrong view in order to differentiate different people and things.
I think you can think in terms of functions, the difference between the function that is wrong understanding and the other is just the sense of I, the comparison. Me, I am not you, you are not me, something like that.
Yes. Right. Thank you.
Functions, yes, and characteristics too. Wrong view has to have a characteristic, and conceit has a characteristic.
Yes.
As long as those characteristics are not known, there be the tendency to confuse them, because we just think of anything involving the word self or I or object or cup is imputes some kind of substance or existence. But it's a question of the characteristic of the mental state that is present when that idea comes to mind.
Before becoming a Sotapanna, there's anyone who has understanding to the degree of it will be Sotapanna Maka. But before that, does she know the truth of mana?
Yes.
No wrong view.
Yes.
And after that, there are conditions for mana to be known. But no idea to stop it, to force it, or try not to have it, but to learn more about it as it's just a reality. That's the way to have less and less mana and other unwholesome cetasikas, stage by stage. So very truthful to the truth. This is the difference between moment of mana for the one who's Sotapanna and the other who's not. This is mine and that is Kunsara's. Lost memory or just understanding the truth. But it's there as it doesn't belong to her.
So be kusala, because one is wanting not to take the wrong cup out of politeness. And so it's just normal thinking, doesn't have to involve wrong view.
going on a little bit later than scheduled because of starting a little bit late. So I'll go on till 1:15 and then check with Ajahn. I just would like to ask Tam to give a short summary of the telephone conversation between a lady in America who made a very generous donation and spoke to Ajahn on the phone at the airport. And I just heard one comment that was very meaningful. I don't know what she said, but it was probably like, oh, I feel very close to you speaking on the phone or something like that. And Ajah's reply was, seeing now is closer. I wonder if you can elaborate a little, Tam.
Yes, I believe at that time, because the lady, she started to listen to Ajahn about 10 years ago, but only from the US. So she listened the audio, and then recently she watched the YouTube video. So she said to Ajahn that she how much she appreciated the teaching, but she also regrets that she cannot be closer to Ajahn. And then Ajahn said, now we are speaking, so it's close, but seeing or hearing is even closer, is what Ajahn said. Yes.
Good reminder for people at home who may, like her, think, oh, they would like to be in the room or something like this. But actually, what is closest of all is the seeing now, the hearing now. We think we're close or far from other people, but it's all just thinking and maybe mana comparing to, oh, I'm not like the ones in the room or something like this. So lots of thinking, lots of mana. But what is closest of all is seeing now, what is seen now, hearing now, no matter where and when. I thought it was a very good reminder.
So it's now Kun Sarah is close to me. At moment of thinking.
Only. And I think the lady was very much touched, because never she expected that even a call of formality, she can be reminded of the truth. And so was for me sitting next to you. And I think even I'm sitting next to you, but the chitta now is closer. But most of the time is not understood. And
thinking of the situation all the time. Oh, sitting close here and not as close as the other one and not attending. But what about the understanding, no matter where, whether in Los Angeles or in this room, what is closest of all? It always comes back to this moment. Very good reminder. No need to go to Thailand. That was Tiny Tam's comment. No need to go anywhere because seeing is always closest of all.
But they're still going because of conditions.
So loss of attachment.
Even she's sitting here, but I do not think about her at all. And I think about other things, other people, other person who is closer.
Mm-hmm.
This is wonderful to hear, Ajahn. And Sarah, I feel a lot better now. When I'm here, I'm not over there.
And when it's something like dosa, well, it's too close.
Good example too, how not understanding the truth can be conditioned for more mana. Because when there's understanding of what is closest now, no thought about where the other is sitting or I'm at home and they're here and all these kinds of thinking with mana, with dosa and so on. But when it's the understanding now, that is the closest of all.
And Sarah, I just want to elaborate more, like when you said, if thinking that, oh, lucky that those people who are in the room, so that may be mana. But if we're thinking, if we go here, then we will have better understanding, then it's diti, right?
Can be, yes, because it's definitely expectation and the idea that somehow I can control the understanding to arise by going here. So the best is understanding, not clinging and expecting.
And in truth, is there, Sarah?
No.
Ask Jonathan. Ask Jonathan. Ask Jonathan.
I daren't answer that question. Answer I give will be wrong.
Best to be a nobody and understand that all nobodies, no one there at all.
So what is the absolute truth? See,
Going back to Hai's question, if you're not in the room, you can hear, but you can't hear as well enough to follow, and you want to get closer to hear better. Doesn't have to be wrong view. So difficult to talk about a situation and say, is this situation or that situation? It always depends on and only the individual themselves can know the answer.
I don't know whether she relating what we mentioned yesterday, and we talked that also just beneficial when we came here to see Ajahn and listen to her. I know. Mana, right?
And appreciating the quality of mudita, there can actually be gladness that others have the benefit to listen. Like, I'm so glad those at home have the chance to join in and the opportunity for kusala. So when there's joy in others' good fortune, especially in others' kusala, then no mana, no wrong view, no clinging at those times.
Like as John explained about situations, and somehow it's usually like if we have a direct discussion face to face, it's easy to focus than we are on the Zoom, because sometimes online we are easy to distracted and cannot follow the conversation.
What about when it's live and you're falling asleep after the lunch? I think it just depends on the moment and the conditions anytime. What do you think, Ty?
Yeah, right.
Easier to focus here or still can be difficult, right? Yeah.
And we can't blame the situation for our distraction. That is the accumulated tendency rather than the fact that there's a distance between us.
I just meant to say that following the discussions, or on Zoom from home, we very much feel, rejoice in your good deeds and your brothers and sisters, right? Yes, and your parents are great, and okay, so anumotana to the interest from the whole family. That's great.
what do you mean? Yes, at moment of hearing.
I mean, just like this in person.
Different moments.
No matter here or at home, still just seeing and hearing and thinking moments of kusala, moments of drowsiness, moments of mana, moments of dosa, just different conditioned dhammas or anatta. And if we think, oh, well, if we're here, there'll be less dosa or more kusala, it's just clinging and expecting again, not understanding what is conditioned.
But it's true. It's just okay because somehow usually when we are with Dhamma friends, we tend to be real easy to appreciate goodies than in normal daily life.
But then that is similar to yesterday comment that it's a prerequisite, right? Like a sila is a prerequisite for understanding. Similar kind of like a track of thinking.
Still thinking of the circumstances or the situations, like one has to be in the right place first. It's not understanding this moment, the truth now.
But also it is important to associate with wise friends.
But I think Ajahn has explained that it's not wise friends as a person, but that the association is meaning is the understanding, right? Not in person.
Well, I think that means that if the opportunity occurs, one appreciates the importance of it. But it's by conditions only. So it's not as though we lead a life, we think of finding wise friends to associate with or something like that. It happens by conditions. And when it happens, there's, as I say, one appreciates the value of those moments. And that's why when one has the opportunity to hear the Dhamma explained, if one has interest, one pays attention, and then there are conditions for it to be recalled later, even if immediately afterwards there's no longer any thought, or like Thai, you can't call it back to mind automatic or on demand, but there may be conditions for it to be reflected upon subconsciously, as it were, later.
And when there is understanding, no matter whether cutting the trees in the garden or cooking at home or any time, when there's understanding, then one associates with the best friend of all, the Buddha and his teachings. I don't really think about much whether this situation is more preferable, or when I'm in Hong Kong, or when I'm in the water in Sydney, or whether I'm reading a newspaper, because Dhamma's is regardless. Each one by conditions, and understanding can arise unexpectedly anytime. So the best thing is not having expectations of a certain situation. If one thinks one will come here and get more understanding, then it's not.
Yes, I don't think that way.
No.
I agree with you that it's necessary as a prerequisite that one hears helpful explanations of the teachings, because one cannot work it out by oneself. That's the point, isn't it? Yeah.
Hearing and sharing the Dhamma is great blessings, to have that opportunity to share with friends. And does anyone at home have anything they would like to say? Because I think we're about to finish for the day. So does anyone else have any last comment?
Thank you, Ajahn Sujin. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, John. Yeah, above all, I think it's also necessary to reflect on the Dhamma on top of consideration. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sita. And just before anyone leaves, I want to